And it has just been, it's an honor. It's an honor to say nonetheless. But we've been going through Genesis. You got me? I'm like going, woo, woo. Been going through the book of Genesis and studying creation, and we're going to start in Genesis 4 this morning. And like I said, we got a little out of order with Mother's Day, the rain we missed because of the flooding a couple weeks ago. We got out of order, and so we're going back to 2 weeks ago, if you really pick it up. Here we go. Genesis chapter 4. Adam made love to his wife Eve. She became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord I have brought forth a man." Later she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept flocks and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of the flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain with his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry and his face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." Now, we've broke down a few doctrines over the last couple of weeks, and you got to see here, there are some doctrines out there that believe, backing up to Adam and Eve in the garden, that the original sin was not just eating the fruit of the tree. They asked themselves, how could God make that sin just eating of a fruit? And they began to break it down as it was sexual sin between Satan and Adam conceiving with Eve. And they conceived two children out of this, and Cain was birthed forth, and at the same time, Abel was birthed right after. They were actually twins, and they take this and they use this as this was the original sin. And you've got two groups of people then. You've got those that are descendants of Cain and those that are descendants of Abel. And if you are born in the descendant of Cain, you are going to be lost for eternity because you were born and always bred of Satan. And if you were born of Abel, then you will always be born of God because it was God's creation. I tell you this because when we see this and see the importance of knowing what you stand for and understanding what the Word says, it's clear, cut, and dry. God has always been very upfront. He says they ate of a tree, not sexual sin. He tells us this because he wants us to see that it was a choice that they gave, and it was in this moment. Before this moment, Adam and Eve did not know what sin was. They had no knowledge of right and wrong. That's what the tree gave them. It gave them knowledge to do good or evil. They knew what they was doing at that moment. They could only do good prior to that. That's why in that moment they recognized that they were naked. How many would think it was right if everybody ran around naked? No, in our heart we know it's wrong. We recognize that in that moment. Everything before that they would have been good, but because they knew now what was right and wrong. And see, coming to this place now, because they've come to that revelation knowledge of right and wrong. When they give birth, every child is birthed with this knowledge of right and wrong, of good and evil. And so in this moment, these guys, they bring their offering to the Lord. And deep in their hearts, Cain knew what he was offering wasn't his best. It wasn't as good. It was just an offering. See, we spent the last couple of Wednesdays talking about this scripture right here, this set of scripture. We've spent week after week here. And there's some inner issues that Cain is working through here. There's some things, whether it's personal between, he's harboring anger against his mom and dad, whether it's anger against God himself. Whatever it is, at the end here, he takes it out on his brother. But he's harboring something, and it's something he's got to work through. And so he comes before God, and he just throws something at his feet that ain't hearted. There is no heart there, and it isn't something. And he knew he was wrong. And God, look at what he says here. He says, the Lord looked with favor on his offering, but Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was angry, and his face was downcast. And the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right. See, he don't tell him what he done was wrong. He don't say, oh, because you only brought me a half-hearted effort, it's wrong. He already knows it was wrong. He didn't need to be told. And he knew in that instance that it was wrong because he didn't bring his heart with it. No one told them. We never ever hear God commanding either one of them, to bring an offering to him. You ever hear God telling Adam and Eve, Cain or Abel at this point? No. He never told them, bring me an offering. They knew it was right to bring an offering to God. God supplied all that I had, all that I've got. God supplied. I showed you last week. God supplied every need man had before he ever created man. He instilled everything in place before he created man, so they would have everything that they needed. And so it was in this place that they knew that it was right to give back to God, to bring an offering just out of their own free will. And we see Cain just bringing a half-hearted offering. I told you last week God was a personal God. He got down and he formed Adam from the very ground. He was that personal. And he said, I personally will meet each and every one of your needs. I will personally supply everything that you have need of every day in every way. All I ask is for you to recognize that. I want you to think of it this way. You have a job. You get paid. But how many of us get paid before we ever work? I mean, there may be somebody out here. I don't. If I don't show up to work, I'm not getting paid. You know, we got to perform. See, our boss has supplied us with a job. Now, we've got to do it. Now, we don't want our boss taking all that money and going and spending it and then just giving us what's left, right? We want what's ours. Do we not? We want what we earned. We're the reason he got paid or she got paid, so we want. And see, God ain't commanding it. He's just saying, you just give me what you feel in this moment. He's just saying, we're out of your heart, you just recognize that I've supplied it, so just give it back if you're willing. I honestly believe this. I really truly believe this. If Cain wouldn't have brought an offering at all, he would have respected that more than the offering that he brought him. He would have respected it more because he would have looked at it as, well, he don't feel I deserve anything. He thinks he earned it all. But now he's just bringing a half-hearted effort. 2 Corinthians 9, 6, and 8. Remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each man should give what he has decided in his heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. He's saying that when you come cheerfully, you're going to receive back. You're going to receive back, and it's going to be a cheerful state. You're going to receive something out of just giving. It's going to be a joyous state. You're going to know you've done what was right. You're going to know that you went in obedience, and I just stood and done what was right. You won't be questioning it. There won't be no ifs, ands, or buts. You'll know that you stand well with God because you just done it from your heart. I recognize that He supplied for me. I recognize that He gave to me. Sometimes, though, we just give. Just to say we gave. There's some people that are walking here this morning and they just showed up just to say, I went to church Sunday morning. They'll come in this place and they're just going to say, well, I showed up. That's just it. But he says, no, you come in as an offering. You come in as an offering. You come in and offer up worship. You come in offering up your time, your effort in this moment. You come in offering something to me. And this works in every aspect of our life, in every day that we do. It don't work just in church. It don't just work at your job, but it works in everything that you do. How much of it are you giving to God in that moment? How much are you recognizing that the only reason that you have a job and able and capable of doing that job is because of God Himself? Are you recognizing that God has placed you in a country with a freedom and the ability to gather freely, week and day after day, to worship? Have you come into the realization that the only reason that you were able to get in your car this morning is He blessed you with a car? Or a go-kart? Everything that you come encounter with and come in contact with, God has blessed with you in your life. What are you doing with it? How are you applying it and allowing and returning that opportunity back to God? For most of us, we spend most of our days worrying about us. Worrying about, am I going to make it through? How am I going to pay for this or do that? And He said, look, I've supplied your need. It's right here. It's already been met. It's done. So now all you've got to do is stand on my word and allow me and return this moment to me right here. This moment. See, there's some that the mind is wondering right now, I can't wait. What time is it? It's getting close to lunchtime. I wonder what I'm going to have for lunch. See, our mind is wandering. It's fixed somewhere else. It's on something else. Other than, God, I'm just here. Just do something inside me. Do something. I'm here for you. This moment is yours. I'm taking my time, and it's yours. And this thing is not cooperating at all. I cannot see it. Mark 12:41. Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money in the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts. But a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins, worth only a fraction of a penny. Calling His disciples to Him, Jesus said, I tell you the truth, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on. Everything she had. That's it. She said, I'd rather take what I have left in this life than I'd rather give it to God. I'd rather take what little bit I have here, no matter how bad it looks, and I'd rather give it to God. Because I know God can take something, no matter how minuscule, and He can turn it into something great. Listen, He took me at my rock bottom in the very place where I had nothing left to offer this world and nothing left to offer my family or anybody I come in contact with. And I laid it out and I gave it to Him. And it was in that moment that He made something happen. Why? Because I said no longer. It was all about me, and no longer it's about me. I'm giving it all to Him. Everything I am, every being that I have left, every breath I take is going to be all for the dedication and an offering to the God that paid the price for me. And that's it. That's what I live every day for. I'm a living offering to God. Are there moments in my life that I'm not patting myself on the back? Don't think that. There's moments in my life that come up and I need to do this or I need to do that. I want this or I want that. We love our toys. But it's in that humble moments that I remember, no. And He has to call me out on it a lot. I'm yours. I've given up. I'm all yours. Everything I am. See, when it reaches that rock bottom. See, there's some people that don't ever reach that state, so they don't understand that state. They just get moved by an emotional decision, and they come in and they give their life to the Lord in that place, and so then they hold so much back because they don't realize that they are nothing without Him. That the only thing that gets me through a day is Him. The only way I wake up in the morning is because of His strength. See, I'd reached a depressive state. And I may have shared this before, but I'll share it again. You know, I had reached a place in my life. I wasn't feeling well, and I went to the doctor. And the doctor, the first thing she says is, "You depressed?" And I looked at her and said, well, what would I have to be depressed about? I just built my house. I had 2 kids at the time. They were both healthy, happy. I said, what do I have to be depressed about? I got a wife, like I said that she loved me part of the time. What do I have to be depressed about? But it was a couple of years down the line that I come to the realization, and God showed me, said, you're at rock bottom. You tried to make so much happen, and you failed and failed and failed. You want so much, and it's never, when I gave it to you, it's never been fulfilling. And it was in that moment that I saw I'd reached that state of depression. It was in that moment that I realized that was all I had. I was a miserable, miserable person. And I made everybody else around me miserable for that. Then I wondered why my wife loved me only part of the time. I was absolutely miserable. And I come to the realization, look, here it is. I'm offering me. I don't have nothing else. I don't have no money. I'm just me. That's all I have. And He said, that's what I've been looking for. All of you. All of you. I like this quote. It says, we become most powerful when we give away our own power. We can become most powerful when we give the very power that we think we have away. Did you know most people will not give their life to the Lord because of trust issues? They don't trust that He knows what's best for them. They don't trust that He knows that He's got a better purpose than what they're serving. They don't trust that He can make them new friends. You know how many will hang on to friends that really ain't friends? You know how many? It boils down to just trust. They just don't trust God. And so they want to hang on to the power they think they have, but what they don't realize, that in that moment, they've given the power over to the enemy. Because every bit of the power that they think they're hanging on to is the power that He's over here, and He's manipulating them, and He's tricking them and thinking, you need, or you got to hang on to. And it's right there that you say, no, I'm going to relinquish the power I think I have to the one that has all the power in the world, that can control something and take something out of nothing. Who from the very beginning, before He ever created man, He created a means. When we are giving, we are relinquishing our power. In other words, we're giving it to God. Anytime we give anything. In a minute, we're going to go to Malachi. Talks about offering, tithes and offerings. And I want you to think about something. If I truly give somebody anything, I don't care what it is. I give them my car. I give my daughter a car. Okay? Let's use her. I give my daughter a car, and I trust that she's going to drive correctly. Now, I come home the other day, and her mom is going, we're going to have a talk with her. She was at me at the four-way stop, and she's home and in the house, in the shower, before I ever get home. And we don't live that far from the four-way stop. Somebody's going to have a talk with her about driving. I give her the keys to my car and say, here, I trust her with that. Now, as humans, we begin to develop trust issues because so many people feel it's like our daughters that drive too fast, and we say, you're taking your own life in your own hands in that moment. But when we give something to God, a God that said, I will never fail you, I've never failed you in the past, I'm willing to pay the price for you, do you trust me? Do you trust me with that? Or are you hanging on to it because you don't? Are you hanging on to something that's just a figment of your imagination, ain't really there anyway? Power. Or are you going to trust me with it? That I've got enough power to make something happen with it. That I can do something with it. Are you going to trust me with it? Malachi 3, 8 through 10. Listen to this. Will a man rob God? Will a man rob God? Yet you rob me. But you ask, how do we rob you? In tithes and offering. You are under a curse, the whole nation of you, because you are robbing me. We wonder why this country is in a curse right now. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord God Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that you will not have room enough for it. A tithe. So many people miss this. A tithe is actually a tenth. 10%. What's 10% of nothing? Nothing. So if you have nothing, then it's nothing. But he says this, he wants you to recognize. He wants you to recognize. He wants you to bring in 10%. And so many people, and I see the looks. Oh, he's talking money. He's talking money. It takes money to run a church. But I'm not here talking about money. What I'm talking about is a tenth of you. You should pay a tenth of your tithes. You should pay your tithe. You should pay 10% of what you make weekly. But you should be given 10% off the top, right off the beginning. Before you do anything else, I should give God my... Not at the end of the day. Not at the end of the day when you're wore out and you have nothing left. How many does it? Lay down in bed going, I'm going to spend a little time with God. I'm going to spend a little time praying. You. Next thing you know, you're dozing off. We've all been there, right? No, he's saying, give me 10% of your time, not the leftover. See, that's what happened with Cain. It's a leftover. It was the stuff he just said, I've got a surplus, so I'll go give it to God. No, that becomes the offering that he's talking about. The tithe is off the top. It says right at the beginning of your day, the beginning of anything you do, give it to me before you ever attack it. Before you ever go into it, give it to me. Trust me with it before you go ahead. Every day before you walk into work, give him time. Every day before you walk in here, give him time. The moment you come in here, it's an offering now. You should be ready when you got in here. You should have been worship God. No. Some of you ain't grabbing this. Look, some of you are going to wait to come in here and worship and say, I hope the worship leader leads us in worship. She better sing some good old songs. No! You should already worship before you ever hear. You should have given the Lord this time before you ever come in the door. Now it's offering time. It's in that moment you say, God, I'm giving this to you. I've come in expecting in this moment. I've come in wanting in this moment. I've come in to offer you something. This is yours ahead. We want to give Him the leftover. We want to give Him 30 minutes here and say, God, I'm going to give you a few minutes of my time, and the pastor better give me something good. And He says, no. If you come in wanting something, you come in and already expecting something, all you're doing is coming in, Lord, I know you're here. I know you're giving something because I showed up expecting. I've offered myself for this time. I've given this time to you. It's dedicated to you. And it works the same way in your work, in your weekend. Oh, yeah. About to step on somebody there. In your weekend. I've given it to you, God. So whatever happens in this day, it may not go as I have planned, but I know everything will be met and your will be done because I've given it to you. Every person I come in contact with, every person I see will be blessed because they're going to know that I'm walking behind you and allowing you to lead me. I'm trusting you with that. You know, I don't think some people grab how long it takes to get ready for a message. See, some people think that, my wife thinks this sometimes, so I'm just joking. You know, sometimes God is just a flood. He just gives you and gives you, and sometimes it's like you can't write quick enough, and there's other times it's like, just wait, and you're in prayer, and you're in prayer, and you're in prayer, and you spend more time, and you read, and you're in more prayer, and you spend more time and read, and read, and read, and it's like, Lord, God, give me something. It's Saturday night. Right, brother? You've been there. See, but it's that just trust. Trust. I know that you've got some. See, He don't want to fail none of you. Well, I come in not wanting to fail none of you. Anybody that walks through that door, I don't want to fail. You know, I pray week after week. There may be one lost soul that walks through that door, and I want to make sure that they walk out of here redeemed. I pray that there may be somebody struggling with something, and I am bound to something, and I want them to be set free before they leave here. I pray this week after week. I got to make sure that I'm lined up with your will and your word flows. I got to make sure. I want to know that I know that the word that you're going to send forth is from you and you alone. Nothing personal. And I don't want to miss that. And so it takes a dedication of just giving up myself. There's moments I give up time with my family. Somebody called the other night and said, you going to the lake and spend some time down there with the family and stuff? And I'm like, probably not. Because I knew what I had to do. I knew what I had to prepare. I knew that I had to be right there. I had to give this to God. I had to do what I was supposed to do. I had to dedicate that time and offer up my time and a little bit of time with my family, that moment, and just give it to God. So that when I come in here, that every word come from Him. To make sure that I didn't sow nothing that was from flesh. See, there's some eloquent speakers out there. There's some people that really can talk well. I'm not one of them. And they can move people emotionally and get an emotional move. You ever have somebody asking for money? They're usually pretty good. They usually call out the best speaker when they have one of them fundraisers and they say, we got this awesome speaker coming. They're usually pretty good. And next thing you know, you're wanting to throw money at them. I'm not that way. I don't want an emotional move. I want the Spirit of God to get in somebody and to do something. I want the Spirit of God to get up inside of somebody's heart and really do something. I want somebody, when they lay down their life, they say, I've laid it down. I'm holding nothing back. I've laid it all down. Everything I am, everything I've got, everything I come in contact is with you, is all yours. Here it is. When somebody has something that they can't break in their life and they're tied to this world, I want somebody to truly come by a move of God and say, I'm going to break the shackles of bondage. I want to set you free. Not to go back and forth, not to go up and down, but to fully be surrendered. So when we start talking about tithes, so many people, it goes back to money. It's all about money, and it's not. But I'll tell you this, money is part of this. Years ago, God started dealing with us. We had an evangelist when we was at Calvary. He come in and he started preaching on tithing. Very tough for a pastor to do. Usually you call an evangelist when you need tithing. You want to get some tithing in there, because then people start thinking, well, this church just wants money. And so, anyway, he's talking about it. And God, we just had a set number we just paid week in and week out at this time. We felt we should give to God, but it was just a set number. And I don't make a set number, it fluctuates every day. And so, here it is. God starts dealing with us about giving a tenth. Now, I'm going to be honest to goodness with you. This is honest, truthful. When we gave at that moment, my wife's response was, I don't know how we're going to do it. She's very worrisome. I don't know how we're going to do it. How we're going to make ends meet. That's taking a lot more money than what we're given. But in that moment when we gave, the surplus started coming. And it was like it was never gone. Nothing changed as far as we didn't look at the number and all of a sudden it dropped. It was still right here. And at times it went up here. Just being obedient to giving to God. Just being obedient and giving what is rightfully His in the end. See, the offering, though, like I said, you ask yourself, how do I have time? You want to talk the offering and the tithing is so much more than just money. It's time. I don't have the time. How am I supposed to make time? It works the same way in all realms. See, God, He created time. Before Him, there was no time. It was Him that created time. So why would you not think that He can create something in time for you? I don't have no more time in my life. I can't sit in prayer. I can't do that. But you can. You trust Him. 2 Corinthians, back to 2 Corinthians 9. As it is written, He has scattered abroad His gifts to the poor. His righteousness endures forever. Now He who supplies seed to the sower, bread for the food, will also supply and increase your store of seed, and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. You will be made rich in every way, so that you can be generous on every occasion, and through us your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. Let's hold up there for just a minute. See, Cain had the seed. See, he sent Cain to the field. He sent Abel over to the livestock. And he said, Cain, he said, now I'm giving you the seed. Now you go and plant that seed. See, he says, now you've got it in your hand. The very thing that's going to bring forth more. You want more, you plant more. You can't take your seed, no matter what it is, and eat it. That's a good meal for a moment. Look, there's some people in here with some mighty gifts. There's some people in here that can do some great things. that they may touch. There's some people that will touch an older generation. There's some that will touch the middle generation. There's some that will touch the young people, all the way down to the little kids. We got VBS coming up. And you ask yourself, what can I give to God in this moment? What can I offer up to Him? What can I do? How can I sow the gifting inside of me for the kingdom of God? How can I sow it? See, in each and every one of us, there's a gift, something special, something that you do better than anyone else in here. It's there. But how many of us stop and ask ourselves, what can I do? What can I do? Most of us ask, well, who will do that? Am I right? Most of us say, I don't got time. Most of us say, I don't got the energy. I say that a lot. And he says, how? He's asking you this morning, how? Ask yourself in this moment, God, speak into my heart. Show me what I can do more. What can I offer up more to you? What can I give back? How can I offer myself up wholly to you? Keep going. Verse 12. This service that you perform is not only supplying the needs of God's people, but is also overflowing in many expressions of thanks to God. Stop. Look, I told you, we talked about the image of God last week, how you were created in the image of God in the very beginning. And your service is the overflowing expression of God. When you lay and show my life is laid down, it shows the very thing that Jesus Christ done. I laid myself down for you because I loved you. So I lay myself down for the people of this congregation because I love them. I lay myself down for the people of this community because I love them. I am an expression of God Almighty. I lay my life down right beside His. What's in me is laid down and planted to be for the furtherance of Him and for His kingdom, to bring Him glory and honor, to express who He is. We truly, truly express who we are most of the time. We sit back and we express who we are. We want people to know, I'm somebody. You know me? I threw that out before. I've thrown that before. You know who I am? You know who you're talking to? I've done that before. Good. Didn't work out too well. I don't care who you are. See, we miss the fact that we're His expression. We are His image. We are His. See, when we get into the thought of personal and how personal He is, see, when He created us, no, we don't look like the next person, so we begin to think that when we are talking about the image of God, that when I look in the mirror that He's got no hair or Dave's hair or but that's not what He's saying. He said, when they see you, they see a God that cares. They see that there's still a God with power and authority in this world when you give it up. There's still a God on His throne. There is still a God that paid a price for you. There's a God that everything you go through wants to help you through it. There's a God that makes sure every need is supplied. So you've got to show Him. There's people in this world that have hit rock bottom, and there ain't nobody out there that cares. And they know no different. They know no different. They think that there is nobody that cares, there ain't a God that cares, when the fact there is a God that cares. And because He cares, I'm supposed to care. See, it's changing their mentality, taking the blinders off. Keep going, 13. because of the service by which you have proved yourself, men will praise God for the obedience that accompanies your confession of the gospel of Christ and for your generosity in sharing with them and with everyone. And in their prayers for you, their hearts will go out to you because of the surpassing grace God has given you. Thanks be to God for His indescribable gift. See, did you know this? I want you to stop and think about this. If God didn't give you nothing, if He didn't supply every need you had, if He didn't give you another thing, do you realize that He paid the ultimate price, something that lasts for an eternity? It don't last for, let's say you live to be 120 years old. It don't last for just 120 years. It goes on and on and on. He paid a price that goes so far beyond that we can comprehend, that He's done so much more than we can even fathom. He gave us something that is indescribable. We can't even comprehend it. So why would we not offer up some kind of sacrifice of our own? Why do we not stop every day and just begin to say, God, how? What can I do? Story of Major General John Stanford, a two-star general. I thought this was fitting because it's Memorial Weekend. But he was asked about leadership, and he said this. He says, we don't get our power from our stars and our bars. We get our power from the people we lead. We get our power from the people we lead. What did he just tell us? He said, those very people that you lead, they'll be praying for you. How powerful is prayer? How powerful is prayer? It changes circumstances. It changes life. It changes your thinking. It changes everything. And it steps from you out of the natural into the supernatural. It changes stuff. That's where your power flows from. It's from the supernatural. It ain't from the natural. He says, when you, the Major, he says, when you give up that power and you let it out, it comes from them. It comes from them. See, this is where a pastor finds his power, right here. It's in this moment when those are on his side and saying, I'm going to lift him up. I'm going to believe that he's going to be in the will of God. I'm going to believe that he's going to bring forth the will of God. Why? Because I spent the time and I gave it to God already. I dedicated the service to God already. It was His. So I know the power comes from you. Because you went to God. And He's the one that has all the power. It's those that I come in contact with. Those that are blessed. And it works that way for every one of us in everything we do and every day of our life. When we've given it to God. When we've offered it up to God. And that's where our power stems. I couldn't make it without the power of the people behind me. I couldn't make it without a congregation that believes in me. I couldn't make it. You know, Satan does enough whispering in the background and saying, you can't do this. Satan does enough whispering. You sure you got that? You sure you was right on? You sure? Half of them were nodding off. Half of them were already out the back door before truth. When I let them whisper enough, it gets in my head, and then I begin to question it. The thing is, it's the power of you guys. It's you that's behind me. You that support me. He said, I've given him to God. I know I trust Him because I'm trusting God. See? And it will work that way. It works in your family that way. It works in everything that we do. Do we trust Him enough to follow? Do we trust them enough to just give up, just be a humble state and say, I'm just going to do and I'm going to serve because I'm offering it up. It may feel like I'm offering it to them, but I'm really offering it to God. But I'm making an indescribable gift that they don't understand, they can't comprehend. But I'm offering it up to God, and they're going to receive it. They're going to see the glory of God. And in that moment, I'm going to receive power. I'm going to receive authority. Why? Because I've given it to God. See, this is the way the church is supposed to work. This is the church's job. It was never to sit in here in this building. It was never. We gather in here to get filled up. We gather in here because the world takes so much out of us. So we gather in here to get filled up. And we just dedicate our time to getting filled up. This is an offering moment. We're offering our time so that we can go and tithe to the world around us. That's what we're supposed to do. We look at the church mostly today as a whole. And it's become about individuals. It's become about the church. If you're not part of this church or this denomination, if you're not a part of it, you're just not. And that ain't the way it works. He says, my church are the people that have given their life to me and follow after me. That is the church. Those that have given it all and surrendered it all, that's the church. At that moment, you become a child of God, and you're in the fold. It's in that moment. And he said, mine know my voice. So they hear me when I speak and when I'm telling them, it's time to apply yourself. It's time to offer yourself up. It's time to give back what I've given to you. It's time. Quit sitting on your hands. Quit allowing it to be about you and you alone. Make it about me. And when it's about me, it's about everybody other than me. Because that's what it was. God didn't come down here for Himself. He come down for me. He come down for you. He come down for everybody else. Look at this, Luke 6:38. It says, give, and it will be given to you in a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use it, it will be measured to you. We look at the church and we wonder why the church is dying in America. It's because of this right here. He says, I've given you something. I've given you something, and until you give it back, I cannot give and it will be given. You've got to give something to get something. And it says, I will press it together. I'll shake it up, and it'll be running over. It'll multiply. We see why the gifts of the church, the very gifts, he says, look, the gifts of the Spirit ain't moving in the church. You see why the gifts ain't fully flourishing. The things that God says, there will be signs and wonders that follow. We wonder why there ain't signs and wonders. Because people ain't giving. They ain't given themselves to me. They ain't offered themselves up for it. They don't trust me with that. Let me ask you this. Personal question. Ask yourself. If God asked you to walk into a funeral parlor and lay hands on it, some young man that has passed away, and say, get up and walk! How many of us would do it? How many would do it? I got to be honest, I don't know that I would. But he says signs and wonders will follow. The deaf will speak, the dumb will speak, the deaf will hear, the dead will be raised. That's what he says. See, because we're not given, we're not poured out, so we can't receive power. We're not going to see something poured into our life because we haven't received power, because we haven't ever given. We haven't fully trusted God. We doubted Him all along the way. Can He really fix these circumstances? Can He really fix what I'm going through? Can He? Will He? But His Word says He will. He said, I will supply everything you have need of. I will meet you, your needs, according to my riches and glory. I will. So how much do we trust? There's individuals that we come in contact with and we say, yeah, it's going to take an act of God to get through. Yeah, it is. But it's time to give something to them so that God can move. Look, I want you to understand something. The church, I heard this get quote. I'll just read the quote. We're here not to tell people what to do. Understand this. We're not here to tell people what to do, but to make sure that they understand what needs to be done and understand how to do it. See, some can sit here and say, oh, I understand. I'm supposed to give to God. I'm supposed to give Him myself. I'm supposed to give Him my giftings. I understand that. But some don't understand that how to do that. Well, first off, when you come in contact with somebody that's trusting, you can tell they're trusting. I can stand around people and I can and hear if you are trusting God with something. See, they've got to see it in us before they're going to grab a hold of it. That's how they understand how to do it. Now we got to back up. They got to understand why. Why? Because He says, when you do this, there's going to be blessings that you can't contain. I'm going to press it down. I'm going to shake it together. And it's going to be running over into your life. You don't want to struggle in life no more with this stuff? Then give to God. Just give to Him. What do you want me to give? Whatever you have. And again, it ain't all about money. It has nothing to do with money. Very little. I shouldn't say nothing. Because some people are just blessed financially and they've got money and it just comes out and they don't even know where they go with it. I'm not one of them people. God meets my needs. Everything I have need of, He's always met. I've had moments in my day where I'm like, how is that going to get paid? How am I going to do that? And it got done. See, people got to see that. People got to hear that. They don't understand. When I trust God, it's going to be done. It's already finished. He said it's been finished from the foundation of the world. It's done. It's finished. On the cross, He cried out, it's finished. Here's the thing. Go back to Genesis 4, 6, I believe it is, or 7. It says, if you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But you do not do what is right. Now look, I want you to catch this. It says, sin is crouching at your door. See, He gave a half-hearted offering. See, so he's saying that this ain't a sin. Not to give. It ain't a sin. He's saying, because you're not doing what's right, Satan is going to twist this and make you think. He's going to turn this into sin. See, God's never going to force your hand and make you do anything that you don't want to do. He's never going to force you along the path and say, you've got to do this or that. He's just saying, sin is crouching at your door because you're doing what you know is not right. Don't heed to it. It's time for you to master it or rule over it. It's time for you to declare, I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. I'm going to give my life wholeheartedly as a living sacrifice. I'm going to lay it down with God Himself. My will is done. My will is only to do the Father's will. Wherever you call me, whatever you ask me to do, I'm going to do it. and I'm going to trust you with it. Can I be honest with you? I'll be honest with you, and I'll close with this. You guys will go ahead and become singers. My will, and I've shared this before, but my will was never to come to Theodosia and preach. It was not my will, my want, my desire. It was never mine. I live an hour and a half away. Mine would be like a block away would have been nice. I don't like driving. I don't like the long drive. But I said, I'm offering it up. Whatever your will is. And he says, when you offer it up, when you give it, I'm going to bless it now. I'm going to multiply. Things are going to come to pass. And I've saw some great and mighty things come to pass. We've saw the power of God manifest itself in here. We've saw God deliver some from sin and bring them to righteousness. We've saw some that have been set free from bondage. We've saw it. That's the power of God because of just being obedient. See, it's when people see this that they say, I want some of that. It's got to be an everyday walk. Go ahead and stand with me. You guys go ahead.